Hello there, and welcome to lifecoachuniversity.com. I'm doing my PIF talk today. It's a pay it forward talk, and it's brought to you by Life Coach University. So if you're not familiar with Life Coach University, head on over to lifecoachuniversity.com and check it out. We are on a mission to coach millions more, and welcome. We have these sessions throughout the month. They are the PIF Talks, which means pay it forward. And the only fee that we have for this is that you do something to spread the love in the world and pay it forward to your neighbor, to your friends, to strangers. Maybe that's, bringing in the newspaper for your neighbor, or mowing the lawn of an elderly folks' house, or buying a cup of coffee for somebody behind you in line, or whatever it is, just smiling at somebody on the street. That's a beautiful pay it forward. And, if you see somebody that's doing something that they're in a position where they don't really get a lot of thanks, offering them, a really heartfelt thanks and gratitude for doing what they do and showing up every day to do it. I think that goes a long way. So with that said, let's jump into this PIF talk today. So welcome. My name is Liz Cresci. I am a strategic growth coach, and I wanted to talk today about spring cleaning. And I don't mean spring cleaning as in dismantling your closets that you've always wanted to tackle and putting it back together in a more organized way. I'm talking about the spring cleaning around you and your life and how you're showing up in it. So, it's been said that spring is a beautiful reminder for change, a change that brings hope, growth, and joy. And I can't tell you how much I reiterate that. I was just driving with my husband the other day, and it's so beautiful to see how alive the world is becoming. It went from being kind of dead and dormant in the winter, and it's from one day to the next, the leaves are coming out and everything's green and it smells so good, and the animals are starting to move around again, and the birds, and it's just beautiful. And it's a perfect time to, when you feel that energy of the earth waking up, to wake up to yourself, right? And wake up to what's going on in your life. And it's a perfect place in the year to take some stock of where you are and what's happening and where you'd like to be, right? It's also been said, your mind is a garden. Your thoughts are the seeds. You can either grow flowers or you can grow weeds. And I love that little poem. Your mind is a garden. Your thoughts are the seeds. You can either grow flowers or you can grow weeds. And it's so true that if we don't cultivate what we want to have, we're at the mercy of whatever grows, right? Think about it like your garden. If you don't purposely plant, the flowers and the vegetables and the plants that you want, you're just going to get whatever nature brings. And oftentimes it's weeds. And, spring cleaning really is a thing. As we consider doing the spring refresh on our environment, we also need to consider about bringing the refresh to our lives and our minds as well. JP Morgan said, the first step towards getting somewhere is to decide you're not going to stay where you are. So this is really for people that are looking to grow and to move out of where they are. I work a lot with people who feel just stuck, who maybe feel like they're holding themselves back and they can't seem to move forward. And this is part of the process that I offer to my clients, and I'd like to share it with you today. And, Albert Einstein said that the world we've created is a product of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking. No problem can be solved from the same consciousness that created it. We must learn to see the world anew. And if you think about the truth in that, the way you were thinking up to this point has brought you where you are in your life. And that's perfect, right? You're in the right place where you need to be today. And you had to experience everything that you've experienced to grow into the person that you are looking back in the mirror today, right? So if you want to take it now, the next step is you've got to upgrade, go for the 2.0 version of you, right? Software upgrades happen all the time on our phones because they're constantly tweaking and fixing and moving. And it's the same principle for us, right? This is such a perfect time of year for me to think about these things, because as I'm seeing the world wake up, it's time for me to wake up for myself. And I invite you to do the same. So I can, consider taking things one at a time. And, with every refresh project you do in the environment, maybe you consider one refresh or upgrade for you personally as well. Do a one-on-one. So I'm going to give you a moment to grab a pen and paper, because I want to talk about the audit. So if you need the moment to get yourself a piece of paper and a pen, and we're going to get into the audit, right? Okay. So the question that we're going to start with is, what feels like it's really going well right now? We don't spend a lot of time thinking about things that go right. For some reason, and I don't really understand the psychology behind it yet, but we tend to be very always focused on what's not right, what's going wrong, what the woe is me, and you're not going to believe this. Like, what if we just focused on the positive, right? You've heard the saying, I'm sure, that which you think about, you bring about, right? So if you're always focused on the negative, you're going to see the negative and feel that much more. It's that reticular activating system in our brains, right? Whatever you're thinking about, you're going to see more of it, because you're telling your brain, oh, I'm really interested in this. Please show me more. It's almost like the Facebook feeds or the social media feeds, that they pick up on things that you've said, or maybe you looked at a specific website, and now all of a sudden it's filling your feeds with advertisements and posts around the same topic. Your brain works very much the same way. When you're focused on something, you will notice it more. It doesn't mean that it hasn't always been there. It just means that the filter in your brain has filtered it out so you didn't notice it before. I mean, we are bombarded with so much stimuli and so many different things every moment that we're looking through our eyes, that our brain needs to filter. And it will filter based on what you're telling it to filter. And if you're always filtering out the good, looking for the problems, that's all you're going to find. So I invite you to start in the point of what do you feel like is really going well right now? What lights you up and sets you on fire when you think about it? Where and what can you honestly say is really good in your life at this very moment? There is always something. And for some people, that may be really hard to find. But I don't mind if you start with, hey, I woke up this morning. That's something to be celebrated. And it's in this moment that we need to start focusing on things that we're grateful for and things that we can appreciate, because what you appreciate appreciates, right? So it grows. And toot your own horn. Be like, I did that project so well, and I was on time, and I gave every deliverable they asked for, or hey, it's springtime, I just cleaned out, that area in my basement that I haven't been wanting to do. I tackled that and it looks great now. Like, be proud of yourself. Celebrate those times. Be grateful for it every day. If you focus on gratitude and you focus on appreciation of things, of people, of experiences, you're going to continue to grow forward with that. And while you're thinking about things that are in your life right now that really excite you and things that you love to do, just take a moment and kind of give yourself a scan. And where does that feel? Where do you feel that in your body? Can you describe that? How you're reacting to that? What the feeling is in your body when you're feeling that excitement? Really get in touch with that and really understand, for me, oftentimes I'll just feel a surge of energy starting from my heart area, like the center of my chest, and it will just surge. And I get excited and I get the goosebumps, right? That's how I know I'm doing something that really matters to me. And then I also want to invite you to consider some of the emotions that you're experiencing in this time and write down more than one thing that you're happy about that's working for you. Really get into a list and take some time, maybe set yourself a quiet moment, even give yourself 10 minutes, put a timer on if you need to, and just brain dump, but all the things that are going really well for you in your life at this time. And then look back and consider each one and consider how it makes you feel. And then think about the emotion behind that. Can you put a name to those emotions? Is one emotion greater than the other? Write them down and really look at them, because an audit is about taking the time and figuring out where you are. Eckhart Tolle said, acknowledging the good that you already have in your life is the foundation for all abundance. And that's really where we want to start, right? Nobody wakes up and wants growth only to not have, abundance and prosperity in whatever it is that they're looking for. It doesn't have to be money. It could be love. It could be, a specific kind of experience. So really take the time to focus on that for you. And once you have put down everything that you are excited for and that you are that brings you joy and that gives you all of those warm and fuzzy feelings, and you know where that happens and what that feels like, then we're going to flip the page. And I invite you to take the same amount of time, maybe 10 minutes on a timer, and look at, what are you avoiding right now? What are you procrastinating on? What feels like a challenge or a drudgery, like, oh, I don't want to do that, or I hate having to do that, or something that drains you of your energy the second you think about it. What do you want less of in your life? We all have them. Here's the thing. Knowing what works for you and what doesn't is the key to change, right? I'm not asking you to change anything right now. I'm just asking, because it can be scary. So I'm just asking you to notice them and write them down. We oftentimes let these negative, draining, sometimes it's not even negative, it's like neutral, but it's a chore. We let these things take over our lives, and and keeping them on the to-do list just drags it, makes it heavier, more pesante, right? More like an anchor, right? The boat wants to move and you keep throwing these heavy things into the water on a chain to you, you're not going to go anywhere. So we oftentimes will talk about them, and we'll talk about like, oh God, I have to do this, and and this happened, and we boo-hoo them, and we lament them, but we don't actually do something about them. And this is the challenge that I'm offering you right now. The only way to change is by knowing the facts, not the emotions, just the facts, right? What does it look like? How do you describe it? Don't describe it from here or here. Don't describe it from here, describe it from here, and just be, matter of fact about it. Brendan Burchard said, avoidance is the best short-term strategy to escape conflict and the best long-term strategy to ensure suffering. And I believe that. the nature of suffering is something that we do to ourselves because we catch ourselves up in focusing on the things that we choose to avoid, that we procrastinate. I recently had to do a personal financial statement for a bank. And oh my God, I procrastinated literally for years. I procrastinated this. And because it's painful, but it's not. And that's the crazy thing, right? Our minds they play tricks on us and they play games with us. The idea of doing it is so painful to me. And you have to look up stuff and you have to write it down and you have to put it all on one piece of paper. But then when you look at it, when I sat there with the piece of paper and I really looked at it and I was super surprised. Things were not as bad as I had made them out to be in my head. And the whole process of doing it took me way less time than I procrastinated on it. And it just sat there in the back of my head, like, I have to do this. I have to do this. And it's one more thing that was undone. And it's one more thing that I could kick myself about because I wasn't doing it. And part of the be 1% more every day requires that we jump into some of these things. So, it's a game that we play with ourselves. Liz Murray said, but avoidance allows you to believe that you're making all kinds of strides when you're not. And that's 100% true. We play this game in our head and when this happens, then I'll do that. But, I have to do this, but blah, blah, blah. Every little thing like that just gets in our way and it keeps us from becoming the success that we know we are here for. And it keeps us from achieving those things that we want. Why do we do that? If we want it, we have every right to bring that into our lives, right? And again, I'm not talking about things, I'm talking about things for ourselves, right? Nothing that negatively affects anybody else in the world, but it's about loving ourselves. It's about loving the community and the world around us. And it's about bringing value. If we bring value to others and we receive value ourselves, then we're going to do well. Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we stepping in to that person, to that life that we know we deserve and we want? When you fast forward, play the rocking chair game with you. You're 95 years old and you're having a conversation with your great grandchild and you're looking back on your life. Is it filled with, here's all of the amazing things that I accomplished, and here's the richness that I brought to the world around me, and here's the beauty that I received in return? Or is it I wish I had done this and I regret not doing that? Like, that's really sad. I don't know if we go around more than this time. So if we don't, then why are we not making the best of it? Why are we waiting for somebody else to do something? Why are we not affecting it ourselves? Why are we not waking up every single day and appreciating, out of the 4,000 weeks on average that we get in this world, we're watching it go by? I just read that book recently, the 4,000 Weeks, a time management book. It was enlightening and infuriating and upsetting and all of those emotions in one, because if you think about it, there's 52 weeks in a year. Every 2 years is 100 weeks, right? So 4,000 weeks, what's that, 80 years? 70 something years? When you hit your 30s and your 40s, like, you're halfway there. What do you have to show for it? It's like your credit card bill, right? You have a certain credit limit. And the more you spend and the more you spend and the more you spend, the only difference is you can't pay it down, right? So you have let's say 4,000 weeks of life, right? Let me get my calculator out here because I'm terrible at math. So 4,000 times 7, that's 28,000 days. So every day that you spend is one day less that you have. Can you put your head down at night saying that you've spent it well and that you have something to show for it and that you're proud of how that went? Or are you like so many of us that wake up the next day and wonder where yesterday went? You know, I joke with my children, but it's not really a joke that after turning 18, the time seems to go faster and faster. And now, you know, I'm not 18 anymore. Shock. It seems to be going by so quickly. I wake up on Sunday today. Happy Mother's Day, by the way. I wake up on Sunday and next thing I know, it's Friday. And I'm like, where did my week go? When we're not intentional about how we show up in our lives, then it just disappears. And it's something to consider, you know. So back to our lists, you have a list of what is working really well, that what energizes you and makes you feel great and you're grateful for and you can appreciate. And then we have our list of the not so appreciable, the things that we've been avoiding, that energy suck, the drain, the things that we want less of. So pause for a moment and look at everything that you've listed. And then make sure they're described in some bit of a detail, right? Not just high level, but give it another sentence or two. You know, and when you're looking at both of them, figure out and jot down, where do you feel that in your body? I guarantee you the ones that you've been avoiding and procrastinating on, you're feeling that in a different place than the ones that give you energy and excitement. You know, what does that feel like? What are the emotions that you're having as you read the items on each of those lists? Is one emotion greater than the other? You know, put a name to them and write them down. And then I want you to celebrate yourself. Pat yourself on the back that you took the time, you know, that's those 20 minutes. You took the time to really look at this and you've painted a picture, like a snapshot of life today. You listed the emotions, but I'm not asking you to come from an emotional place. I'm asking you to come from a factual place, right? It can feel really daunting and overwhelming, but you know what? Again, you're perfect right where you are. This is where you're supposed to be. And yes, we have a lot of wishes and hopes, you know, but that's just having those things like, oh, I wish I had. That's even more draining than some of the things you've been avoiding. So let's stop that. Let's make an agreement right now to stop that. And if you wish it and you want it, then put that in your plan and make it happen, because you're the only one that can do that, right? So all that you've been like, all that you are in this moment has been created by everything that you've experienced, the good, the bad, the indifferent, right? Those experiences have created who you are, and you couldn't show up if you didn't, the way you do, if you didn't experience them. Now I'm asking you to show up, not by default, but in a way that you choose, right? Be intentional about it. Nothing has meaning unless you give it a meaning, right? How do you choose to show up in the world? That's what defines you. What you do with the experiences that you've had is what defines you, not the experiences themselves, right? Choose the meanings that you give it. Choose how you show up and what you do with that. There is no right or wrong to this. There's only you and your experience. And if you take, people have had everything from large T trauma to small T trauma to hiccups to this, that, and the other thing. I'm not discounting what you've been through. I'm not discounting that you might even need to seek, professional help to work through something. But the fact is, those things in your life have happened. You can't put that toothpaste back in a tube. You can't go back and change it. You can only change how it's going to affect you going forward. And that decision is wholly in yourself. And you may feel that you need to have professional help and seek a counselor or a therapist to help you work through that. If it's not a capital T trauma, it doesn't mean it feels any less or any different, but you might be able to go to a coach or to a somebody who is not a trained in diagnostics and trained in therapeutic processes, right? So if something doesn't feel so good and you want to change it or make it better, this is the process. Reduce it to the facts, remove the emotion for the moment, and remove the judgment. If you cannot change something if you don't know what it is that requires the changing. And that's what this audit is about. You've looked at things that are going well, you've looked at things that aren't going so hot, right? And now you get the choice. The power is with you. You can create the plan to make the change, but you can't do it if you don't know where you're starting from or what in fact needs to be changed. You have to spend some time with that. T. Harv Eker said, where attention goes, energy flows and results show. And that's really true. If you're stuck and you don't know where it is, look at the results of your life right now. Look at the results of things of different aspects. That will tell you what you've been paying attention to and what you've been letting sort of work on autopilot. The idea here is to get more of what is working and makes you feel good and energized, and less of what's not working and that you've been avoiding and makes you feel awful, right? That's, if you want to bring it down to the simplistic, that's what we're talking about. So we want you to be able to replicate those feelings that you get from what's going right and well, right, in your life. And by changing what you're avoiding or feels yucky and draining of energy, that's really the crux of it. And sometimes it requires just holding our noses and slogging through to the other side. But sometimes it's just about, how can you tweak it just a little? What positive can you find in the field of negativity? Where's that one little crocus growing in that burnt out field, right? There is life. If you look at nature, it will show you that even when things look horrible, it can be born, it can be renewed. I mean, it really works that way. And you can find examples of that to push yourself through if you look for them. If this is a struggle to write down these two lists, let me give you a slightly different one, right? Take your piece of paper and draw a really big circle on it. And then divide that circle into 8 wedges, like pie wedges, right? In the center of each wedge, write a scale from 0 being the center point to 10 being the outermost, the outermost ring of this circle, right? The border of the circle. And then label each section with a different aspect of your life. So you have something, you've got like health, meaning your physical health, financial, I think that's fairly self-explanatory, career or business, That would be your job or your company or, whatever is the career or business side. Relationships, and I'm talking about your friends and family, right? Those people that are close to you, those people that are not so close to you, but your friends and your family. A separate section for your intimate relationship. That's your partnership, your spouse, your significant other, whatever that may be. Your environment. I'm talking about your bedroom, your house, your yard, your office, your car, like your environment in general. Fun and recreation. What do you do for, this is the section that we're going to talk about fun and recreation for you. That's your downtime. That's things that you enjoy doing that might be creative or might be fishing or, who knows, but it's things that you do to kind of energize and recharge and have some fun with. And then finally, spiritual or personal growth, that would be more sort of the mind and the, and the spirit, right? And you can name them anything that you want, right? But the trick is that you have the 8 sections and you have the scale 0 to 10 inside each one. Now, take the first one. Let's start with health, just because that was first on my list, and none of them are more important than the others. But think about where you are in this moment on a scale of 1 to 10 with your health. How is your physical body? How is your overall health, disease? If 10 is your optimal health and 0 is, can't get yourself out of bed and function by yourself on your own, whatever that scale is for you, put a dot on the scale of where you are now. And sometimes it helps to have 2 different color pens or pencils to do this. So pick one, put a dot. Then go on to the next, financial. How does your financial life stack up right now, today? No judgment, just where is it? And go around to the various different parts of this. And then when you're done and you have a dot in each section, take that pen or pencil and connect the dot. And step back and take a look at it. Is it balanced? I mean, a circle is like a wheel, right? If you were to roll this down your driveway, would it roll or would it stop? Does it look like a triangle? Does it look like a point? What does it look like? And just notice that. And now go back to each one of those. And here's where I'm going to ask you to pick a time frame. 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever you feel is doable for you that you want to focus on right now. Where do you see yourself with each of these aspects in, let's say, 3 months, in 3 months? I want to caveat that and say, you don't have to have a change. If right now things are going okay in your health and your spiritual and your family and career, but you really realize that you don't have any fun and recreation, maybe you want fun and recreation to be up at the same level as everything else in 3 months. And maybe there's one other place, right? So not everything has to continue to grow and to go further on that scale. But do the same dot in a different color. Where would you like it to be in the 3 months? And then connect those dots and step back and take a look again. Is it balanced? If it's not balanced, then here's where you need to spend some time. If that's where you choose to spend some time, at least you know where it's starting from, right? So is it lopsided? What seems to be working the best from this graph in your life? What seems to be lagging behind? Where do you feel drawn to right now? I mean, this is your data point, right? And now you can make conscious, intentional choices to where do you want to focus your energies to. Now, given the time frame, what is the most pressing area for you in the next 3 months or whatever time you chose? There is no right or wrong. I just want to remind you of that. Go with your gut. Really sit with yourself. Use your intuition here. Pick one area, and then let's dive a little deeper into that one. Ask yourself some questions about it. Why is it where it is today? Stay factual, avoid the blame, don't get caught in the emotion trap. But honestly, let's take fun and recreation, because I think a lot of people lack focus on that. Why is the fun and recreation at a 1, right? When everything else is at a 6 or 7 or 8. Why is it so low? Well, I haven't taken the time to incorporate that. Okay. Yeah, and I've also gotten away from things that I enjoy doing. I just don't think about it. Okay. Those are factual things. There's no judgment. It just is, right? What will make it a whatever number you chose? So let's say it's a 1 today and I want it to be a 6. What is going to make fun and recreation a 6 for me in 3 months? What would do that? What needs to happen to get me to a 6? Here's an important question. How will I know when I've hit the target number on that scale? How will I know when fun and recreation for me has become a 6? And what can you stop doing to help get you closer to your target? Because there's always something. What can you stop doing? And on the other side, what can you start doing? What can you incorporate into your life with that? Are there skills that you need to learn that you don't have? Is there a refresher that you need? Do you need to read a book? Do you need to talk to somebody? Do you need to take a class? Like, what is it that would give you more of that fun and recreation, or that whatever that is that you've chosen? Is there anything that you can outsource to help assist you to get to that number? Now, with fun and recreation, I do not necessarily think there's something you could outsource, but let's say it was financial, and maybe you hire a bookkeeper, maybe you hire an accountant, something along those lines. Health, maybe you hire a health coach. What can you outsource? How can you help yourself with that? What resources do you need to help get you to the number that you chose? And how will you stay on target? How are you going to keep accountable? Maybe you have a checkbox, like, when we were growing up as kids, they used to have target, like chore charts. And if you did it, you did a checkbox. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's inviting a friend to do this with you and have accountability. Maybe you both go to the gym together every day. And if you don't show up, they're going to know. Maybe it's hiring a coach to kind of help you talk through your processes and make sure the plan is in place and keep you accountable. So from here, you're going to create the plan so that you can move yourself forward in this area within the 3-month period, right? You want to break it down. What are the steps that you need? Get super specific and put the time in your calendar, post it on your fridge, tell your friends and family, even better, or get the coach to help keep you on track. But put that accountability in place and create the steps. So if we're taking fun and recreation, and my fun and recreation right now would be a 1, let's say, because, on occasion I'll do something different and fun, but I want it to be a 6, which means that I need to dive more into something that brings me joy and that I love to do. So for me, that really is like, I don't know, I've been wanting to take some art classes nearby. So, okay, what are the steps? Like taking an art class a month would bring me to a 6. Let's say. Okay, so what are the steps that I need to do? I need to look up the art classes around. I need to choose the ones that are interesting to me. I need to look at the calendar and compare it to my calendar and see if I can make them happen, because they are in person. And then okay, so what if I can't make that happen every month? And what if I don't have the money to do these courses every month? That's a real possibility. So what can I put in its place to bring me the feeling that I'm looking for, the joy, the fun, that doesn't cost as much or anything? Or, what would that be? And brainstorm those. The idea is to not make a plan and be like, oh, I'm going to do this art class once a month. And that time comes and I don't have it already scheduled. I don't have it put into place, or I all of a sudden I don't have the money to do that course. Where can I shift to? Because if I don't have the answer up front of how to get around the obstacle, then I'm going to get mired in the, oh, well, I guess I can't do it this year. And stop. Who cares? Change, level shift, go a different direction, right? So get specific, as I said, and post it, carve out the time now, spend some time on the planning, have those steps, write those steps down, stick them on your wall, stick them someplace that you're going to see and you're going to pay attention to, because we're only talking about 1% a day. Push yourself to get out of where you are 1% a day. That's all. Nobody's asking you to change your life between tonight and tomorrow. We're asking you just to focus enough to make 1% progress every day. Once you have your plan, you have to work it. I know that's a shock, but you have to work that plan. And in working that plan, celebrate every step that you take. Absolutely celebrate them, track them, check them off the list, give yourself a star, whatever works, but take action. It's easy to fall into the low energy negative spot, but action helps clear those cobwebs, because it's all about action is moving forward. If you're not growing, you're dying, right? If you get 1% better every day and you focus on the way that you want things to be in that time frame, in that 3 months or 6 months or a year, whatever, so that you can be open to making things happen. Robert Kiyosaki said, hoping drains your energy. Action creates energy. And it's so true. Have you ever woke up in the morning and decided that you were going to tackle something you've been meaning to do for a while, that you've been putting off? And you do it, and then you're like, yeah, I did this. And you feel so empowered because you completed that thing that's been dragging around on your to-do list forever. That's super empowering. That's the energy that action creates for us. Vowing to do something or make a change, even an intense vowing, is useless without action. And that's part of what spirals us back down into that negative feeling. You want to instead figure out what works and making it like concrete, a vivid, concrete, growth-oriented plan that has step by step. Instead of saying, I want to be a 6 in fun and recreation, you need to know what that looks like. You need to make specific steps to get you there. Because once it's the, what's that? The law of inertia. Something at rest remains at rest until affected by an outside force. I probably said that wrong, but when you're in motion, you'll tend to stay there. When you're just stuck sitting on a table, it's going to stay there unless you force it to happen through an outside force, right? You make the effort. Where are you going to do it? How will you do it? And when will you do it? Schedule that stuff. Most often, the area that has the greatest need of spring cleaning to remove the cobwebs is our mindset. And this is what holds us back. So right now, you've got the plan. Now let's work on our mindset so that we know we can succeed in this and we can push forward. It's so easy to fall in the habit of negative thinking, right? So while you're evaluating and auditing everything that's going on in your immediate life, evaluate the folks that you surround yourself with, right? The people that you spend your time with as well. Jim Rohn has famously quoted saying, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." And for some people, that's themselves, right? They shelter themselves off. And if you're constantly stuck in this loop of fixed mindset, of negative thinking, it's going to keep you stuck there. So who are those 5 people for you? Are they where you want to be? How do they show up for themselves? How do they show up for the world? How do they show up for you? How do you feel when you're with them? And if you spend most of your time by yourself, are you where you want to be? Do you show up well for yourself? Do you show up well for the world? How do you feel when it's just you? Right? And the person that, if you don't feel the positive excitement, the growth, the energy, if you can't say that you honestly love yourself, then how can somebody else be expected to love you? You know yourself better than anyone, right? So celebrate you. And when you're challenged by something, or you're in a bad mood, and you connect with one of these 5 people that you spend the most time with, including yourself, do they lift you out of it, or do they drive you deeper into it? When you're feeling on top of the world and you connect with them, do you continue to soar? Do they celebrate with you? Or does that feeling kind of fizzle away? These are things to consider, right? They're very real. Energy is contagious. Often it's like negative energy is the most zapping, and it takes over more so than positive energy. I don't know if you've ever been like in a great mood, and then you walk into a room and 20 minutes later, you're like, I'm not feeling like I'm in such a good mood anymore. I'm feeling like this isn't the way I walked in here. And that's because the energy in the room is like pulling you down. And if you're really serious about change, if you really want it, you have to spend some time looking at your mindset and understanding it. Somebody once said a negative mind will never give you positive results. And that is true. You're very closed off when you're in that negative space. You lose your creativity, you lose your ability to brainstorm and to really get excited about new concepts and new ideas. You're very closed off, right? So I know I've talked about Carol Dweck and her book, Mindset, the New Psychology of Success. She wrote this in 2006, and it's so worth skimming through if you haven't read it, just to have an understanding. I wish I had read it when my children were young. My children would have had a different experience, right? But she talks about 2 mindsets. There's the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. Neither one is good, neither one is bad. But the fixed mindset, the folks that have a fixed mindset believe that your qualities are carved in stone. So they're constantly have an urgency to prove themselves over and over again, right? If you only have a certain amount of intelligence or a certain personality and a certain moral character, you have to prove that you have a healthy dose of them, right? I mean, wouldn't it be good to look and feel, it wouldn't be good to look and feel deficient in the most basic characteristics, right? So, and this is something that tends to be trained into us during our lives growing up. If you're constantly consuming the one consuming the goal in people, like to prove yourself, right? We do this in classrooms, we do this in careers, we do this in relationships. Every situation is evaluated by that person. Will I succeed or fail? Will I look smart or dumb? Will I be accepted or rejected? Will I feel like a winner or a loser? Like it's black and white, on and off. There's no in between. And if you can't, it's those folks with the fixed mindset that tend to not try new things, because then they can't guarantee that they'll succeed. And that will mean something else to them, right? It'll mean they're a loser or a failure, right? Whereas the growth mindset people believe that our basic qualities are things that can be cultivated through effort, strategy, and help from others, right? They're the ones that are more apt to ask for help or explanation. And they believe that a person's true potential is actually unknown and unknowable. It's impossible to foresee what can be accomplished with the years of passion, toil, training, right? That's a growth mindset. So they're wondering, why would you waste time proving over and over again how great you are when you could be getting better, when you could be pushing yourself to another limit? And why would you hide your deficiencies instead of overcoming them, looking at them as challenges? So this growth mindset is the one that allows people to thrive during some of the most challenging times in their lives. Now, again, there's no right or wrong here, right? The fixed mindset, the success is about proving that you're smart, you're talented or whatever, and validating yourself and getting yourself external validation. And they believe that effort is a bad thing, right? If you have to put effort into it, then you're not smart or talented or whatever. And the growth person looks at that as stretching yourself and learning something new to develop yourself. Effort is what makes you smart and talented. There's a difference, right? So you have a choice. Mindsets are just powerful beliefs. Something in your mind, and you can always change your mind. That's a growth mindset. That's how they put forth. So we have a few minutes. Let me give you just an imagination, right? So let's imagine that you're having a bad day. You're a student, you're a college student, and you've studied super hard for a midterm exam. And you've done everything. You've gone to every extra help and you've done everything you can. You studied really hard and you got a C+. How do you feel? Then you leave the classroom and you find a parking ticket on your car. So not only did you get a C+ on this midterm, but now you got a parking ticket on your car. And then you call your best friend because you want to vent and talk about it, lament about your day. And they're like, they don't have time for you. Yeah, I can't talk now. I'll call you later. Click. What do you think? How do you feel about that? What would you do? I mean, be honest, right? So if you have a fixed mindset, for example, you might consider the day as a direct measure of your competence and worth. A C+ on the exam, a parking ticket on the car, and your friend blew you off. You might start labeling yourself and throwing your hands up in the air in defeat. You might be like, my life is pitiful. I have no life. Somebody upstairs doesn't like me. Life is unfair. All the efforts are useless. I'm the most unlucky person on earth. Maybe you do nothing. Maybe you climb into bed, you get drunk, or you pick a fight with somebody, or you cry because, what else is there to do? That's how a fixed mindset person is going to react to a day like that. A growth mindset person, on the other hand, they got a C+, they got a parking ticket, they called their friend and got blown off. They may feel like they're in distress in the moment, but they really stop and take on the challenge, right? They look at, the risk and they keep working at them. They don't label themselves. They don't throw their hands up in the air. Perhaps it's the thought process of, wow, geez, I guess I need to try harder and be careful where I park. And geez, I wonder what's happening in my friend's life, that they must be having a bad day. Maybe I should call them and, offer my support. Maybe it's studying harder or differently. I'll pay the ticket and that sucks, but hey, whatever. and try and work things out with my friend. So I'm sure you can see here how your mindset affects your experience, and how your experience is going to affect your emotions, and how your emotions help create the meaning that you give it, right? Same thing, one got a C plus, they both got a C plus. One made it mean that they're stupid and they're a loser. And one just said, hey, I didn't study right. Like, let me figure out what I need to do so I can learn it better. That there's a difference in the meaning. So really knowing yourself and how to open yourself up to make changes, that's what we're looking for here. That's the key. You're not a failure if you don't decide to make changes. We often proclaim something and then fall short. We beat ourselves up, right? That won't bring change. What if somebody at work or school or home makes a mistake? Do you jump on them and beat them to a bloody pulp, or break their bones, kick them and punch them? Will that change the fact that they've made the mistake? It certainly won't guarantee it will never happen again. And only making them and reviewing them and finding out why the mistake happened and looking into it, and so it can be avoided in the future, will make the change. Understanding from where you're starting. But we do that stuff to ourselves all the time. So having some grace with yourself, really understanding, how do you show up in the world? What's your thinking process? Where do you need to change? Like, look at things in a factual way. There's no shame in growth. Shame is the most insidious emotion that we have, and we all carry it, and for no good reason, right? There's no such thing as perfection, not even in nature. It's all about how we choose to show up. John Maxwell said, change is inevitable. Growth is optional. Steve Maraboli, incredible change happens in your life when you decide to take control of what you do have power over, instead of craving control over what you don't. This is something we do all the time as people. Oh, if only I had that, and why? Because that's not fair, and why can't I have this? They have that, I don't. Rupi Kaur said, you don't just wake up and become a butterfly. Growth is a process, and it's being aware and having that process, knowing what you're going through. That's going to affect the change. That's going to help you. So I'm inviting you to do some spring cleaning. When you're cleaning your environment, clean yourself too. Clean your life. Pick something, really get in there. Don't beat yourself up for it. 1% greater every day. Something new. Try something different, because, the way you've been doing things, what's that different definition of insanity? Is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Let's try it. Just tweak it 1%. And just know that it's all about the journey. The destination isn't really the goal. It's part of the journey, because we're all going to end up, in the same destination. It's about what we do in the time between now and then that matters. It's the growth, it's the journey, and it's making our lives something that we can be excited about on that rocking chair so many years from now, when we're recounting it to our great grandchildren. To be excited about it, to know that we showed up well for ourselves, and in turn showed up well for the world. So thank you for joining me. I just want to remind you that this was brought to you by Life Coach University. Head on over to Life Coach University and check out some of the things that are coming up. We have some amazing PIF talks in the next couple of weeks. We have Brian Peterson, who's going to be talking about how to evaluate failure to achieve success. And that's next Wednesday, the 17th at 4 p.m. Eastern time. That's coming up. And then we have Norma Fran, who love her. She's Weight Loss Your Way. She'll be here Wednesday, May 24th at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And you can join us I think it's Tuesday through Friday, but it's every week. We have a number of coaches that come together for Let's Coach 2023, come from all over the world at all different times. And they're 30-minute sessions. you can come and get laser coaching. Just raise your hand and you can speak voice to voice around something. And if you don't want to come on voice to voice, we always have the Q&A box. Throw your questions in there, throw your comments in there. The coaches will bring a topic to have a conversation around that day, but your questions, comments, and laser coaching don't have to correspond. If we're talking about goal setting and you want to talk about a relationship, bring that up. Here's your opportunity to have coaching from a coach in a group setting every day, right? Check it out, lifecoachuniversity.com. There's so much more, and please pay it forward. I think that if you're working in an office and somebody's cleaning the bathrooms or emptying the trash, just look them in the face, smile and say, thank you. I really appreciate what you do for us. That goes a long way. So thanks. Have a great day.